Welcome, welcome. It is October 8th, 2025. It's Wednesday, everyone. So, let's talk for a minute. Now, I'm going to show up every day to this as much as I possibly can. That's exactly how this works. The more you show up at these charts, the more you start to get familiarized with what's going on in there. And what you'll notice is if you've been watching my channel from the very beginning of the first post to now, we've been pretty on point with what's been going on here in the charts as far as Bitcoin and Ethereum, even the zones that we're choosing to get in and out of. Now, what's important is this. I'm not trying to give you bells and whistles. This ain't about me knowing it all or anything like that. What this truly is about is showing up. You just got to show up and do it constantly. And the more that you show up and the more that you have a little bit of guidance to start seeing these charts in a specific way, the more you learn how to fish. So it's important that when you're doing this, when you're showing up at these videos, when you're showing up at the chart, and you're actually putting some time into really trying to understand what you're seeing, the more the matrix is going to open up to you. The more you're going to see things and you'll be able to make choices with a little bit more confidence. Now, trading is a big what if scenario. If this, then that. But it's important to know that it's a 50-50 chance whether these things are going to go up or down. There is an edge that you get starting to understand how these candles work and everything. And because of that, what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to give consistency, not exaggerated, trolly kind of scenarios, not, what, it's going down and I'm Nostradamus. It has nothing to do with that. I show up at these videos, I show up at these charts, I should say, every morning, and this is my routine. I spend about 20 minutes or so going through the charts and I create a plan. Now, it's not something that I'm telling you that, hey, you need to do it, and then I don't do it. Everything you see in these charts, I do. From getting in or from making a plan to entering in the zones that I'm looking for. I'm very patient about exactly where I enter and where I don't, but everything that I do has a reason, and none of it really has to do with news. That's important for you to understand. Everything so far from the beginning has always been about the chart. Now, the one thing that news gives you is volatility, right? And it gives you volatility in a sense of like good news, you think it's going to go up, bad news, you think it's going to go down. And every time you make a choice and you go into that, you end up, the idea is that they wipe out everybody, If everyone's going to turn left, then they turn right. And if everyone decides to turn right, they'll turn left. And the person who actually benefits from that is the person who's making the choices, right? And in these charts, there are people that are bigger than you, right? That are making these choices. So it's important that you show up, you put some time into it if this is what you want to do. Okay, if you're looking for someone to just tell you, here's a signal, get in or out, well, guess what? You're going to get scammed 90% of the time, right? So, and the reason for that is, people do things with like intention to benefit themselves. This channel is not about benefiting myself. This is about sharing the information that I've got, and this is what I do every single day. So why not record it and keep it as a log, right? And if you get something out of this channel, then great. I'm happy, right? What I would love is I would love any kind of feedback or even if you wanted to see more of these videos, you can subscribe or like or anything. I'm not looking to be like a YouTube star, but I am looking to help out those people who are looking to be, to learn from these charts. Now, what's important is I have been there, and it took me a long time. When I began in these charts, looking at everything, I couldn't even get a 5% gain. I couldn't even get a 3% gain. It was negative, 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 negative. Now, since I've been recording these and posting them on YouTube, now before I posted on YouTube, of course, I've trained, I've learned. This is how I'm getting on here, right? I don't look at other people's signals. I don't read other people's, opinions. I learned that the chart is the chart. The chart will tell you everything you need to do for the day and, the week, or like whatever, right? So, but as I started going through all of this stuff, I started to learn a lot, and I became very consistent in this. Since I've been recording these videos and putting them on YouTube, I've gotten almost 100% gain on every single one of these trades. They've taken time to play out. Sometimes I get 200%, sometimes I get 100, and sometimes I lose, right? And those losses are outweighed by my wins. And I'm very, very consistent. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to give you guys a little bit of insight on how to stay consistent, and really showing up at these charts and doing an analysis before you decide to jump in. Oh, the chart looks bullish. Don't do that, right? So anyway, if you are liking these videos, if you are finding some interest, please, feel free to like, feel free to share, feel free to subscribe. You don't have to, but it would just give me a little bit more motivation knowing that that you're there and learning something from this, right? So, all right, so let's get into these charts. That was my morning spiel for today. So this is where we left off yesterday. Okay, I DCA'd into this area right over here, and I was talking about these candles, about how they were looking as far as like the wicks and everything like that, and how the candle bodies are stuck within there. And this is what we got right over here. This is called the swing failure pattern, right? It tried to get over this this zone, but it failed, right? And usually what a swing failure pattern looks like is this wick right here, followed by 3 candles or 4 candles, whatever, usually 3 candles that are a lot lower than that. So if you take a look over here, here is a swing failure pattern, right? That's a swing failure pattern, and you can see them all over the place. This is a swing failure pattern. And you can see it kind of like swoop. It's basically a change of direction, right? But what it is it's going into an area of resistance or support, and basically creating this wick. Now these wicks right here on the candles that follow usually are to take out the candle before. People are shorting in the right area and they end up taking them out. So here you could see, this kind of pattern right here. If you shorted this area, you were taken out by this candle right here. And if you shorted this candle, you might have been taken out by this one over here, unless you planned for the spread. And that's exactly what I did. I actually got into this position right over here, and I planned for this whole section here. There's about a, I believe it's a 2% spread. This was my 2% spread here, and I did it on 10x, right? And what I did was I threw only a little bit here as kind of like a test, right? Like I threw a little bit of bait in there, right? So I was satisfied. That's kind of like the hack, right? So I threw some in knowing that I would, that it would start going in the opposite direction, and it did hit that, but then it tried to take out my position. But because my spread was so wide, right, or high, whatever, I was able to DCA right over here. So I had another entry sitting there that I ended up shifting my entry point above, and you could see it almost got taken out, right, by that wick. But I'm kind of in a safe spot right now. So I am still in a short, and this drop right here was sharp. Man, it was sharp. And usually when there's a sharp drop, I have a like this visual that I go by in my head, honestly, is if I threw a ball up in the air, right? If I threw a ball up in the air and it's all the way up here, what it's going to do is when it comes down here, it's going to bounce, right? It's going to come down and bounce. And usually the next bounce is a little bit smaller. And the next bounce is a little bit smaller. And that's what I look for with these spills, right? What I look for is the initial drop is the big attack, right? And then there's the settle out, like this easing out of this position, right? So what I am doing right now is I am looking, from yesterday I explained, I'm looking in this section for a long, to add on to my long for BTC. And this long, this section I feel like we need to hit because of this right over here. I want this line here to be hit because it was the last resistance that there was in the chart in the past, right? So what I'm hoping for is I'm hoping that Bitcoin kind of like wicks down here, finds some strength, and then comes back up. So that's my plan from yesterday or this week, and it's still, or yet actually it was yesterday, and it's still my plan. Now, the only difference is if we go look over at Ethereum now, right? Ethereum was even sharper of a drop. And I mean, like, you know, again, I said before that Ethereum is a little bit more of a wild card. Let me pull this out. This right over here. What is this? Yeah, there we go. Okay. There. Ethereum is a bit of a wild card, right? I mean, these moves have been so sharp and so large that, you know, what I was looking for was I was looking for it to come into this area right over here. That's what I was looking for yesterday. I was hoping that it would touch the red. If it touched the red, then I was going to consider taking a short depending on what the chart was doing. But it didn't do that. Instead, it used this as resistance right over here. That's where we went. And it was almost like a front run move straight down. So we are still in the middle of the range here. Okay, this is the middle. From golden pocket to golden pocket right over here. This is kind of like where we're at right now. And I wanted to take a add on to my long over here, right? Because I'm in a long. So on BTC, I've got a short right now looking for a long, and on ETH, I've got a long, right? That I've taken a lot of profit on, that still has a good amount in the trade right now. What I'm looking to do is I'm looking to add on to both of these, not the short really, but you know, the find a long, right? So I'm hedging right now, taking trades in either direction. But because Ethereum has taken such a big hit, I am waiting until this settles out with this kind of bounce, right? And each bounce I feel will take out the last candle that was there, right? And you can see that kind of over here. This is that kind of setup. So let me draw this out. So here's a drop right here, right? There's the ball dropping, and then it bounces up. Look, it comes a little bit lower, right? Then it bounces up again, and there we go. That's the hit, right? So if we were looking at that over here on this side, we only have the first hit. So this is the first hit right over here. So now we're getting that bounce, right? And it could be possible that we're getting that third. Now where it ends up, if it comes over here, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if we test this area one more time, right? Because if Bitcoin dominance is stepping up at this point, and you know, Bitcoin is taking, you know, it needs a little bit more further down to go. If it's going to come over to this section, then it's definitely going to push Ethereum down lower, right? So the other thing of my concern is the fact that we are underneath this 50% range line for Ethereum, okay? That means that we are now back at the bottom of the range. So again, so the support area for the bottom of the range is this right over here, right? This is the long area. Oh, something happened there. This is the long zone right here. So if we do get down here, then maybe it's time to add on to the long over here. So because there was such a big move yesterday, and I was looking in this section to really kind of, you know, to add on to my long, I'm going to wait because it feels like Ethereum is starting to feel a little bit weaker than Bitcoin, especially for the move that it made, right? So let's go take a look over at Bitcoin dominance, and you can see Bitcoin dominance is starting to move up. We're still kind of in this this channel that's moving up right here. This is the channel now, right? And it can definitely come into this area and mitigate you know, this order block over here. Like it can come up and it can come down right there. So as long as Bitcoin dominance is stepping in, I'm going to hold off on Ethereum as far as doing anything. I need to really understand what's happening. And you can see here on Ethereum dominance, we've got this really sharp rejection, right? But we are still in the bounce zone. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, because I've taken quite a bit of profit along the way on both sides, I am going to chill. I do not want to run into a trade thinking that, you know, we're going up and everything's going to be fine. This right here is concerning, right there. That's concerning to me, right? Not concerning like, oh, we're going to zero, but enough to say, okay, I didn't catch this short. I'm just going to wait now. And hopefully, if we get over into this zone over here, like I can add on to my long, right? So that's my plan right now. Things are starting to shift, right? So we'll see what happens. At this point, there are two zones that I'm looking at for Ethereum. I'm still looking at this golden pocket right over here, but I'm looking for this line right over here. See this line? This line I'm looking for if Bitcoin is going down and the dominance is up, right? And the dominance is up. BTC dominance is up. Then that means this is not a problem for it to hit. Right? So, yeah. This is my area right here. That's what I'm looking at for now. And for Bitcoin, I'm still looking at this zone right over here. So, okay, guys, that should be it for today. I've talked a lot. So, good luck. That's my plans. And again, you know, feel free to like and subscribe if you want to. I sure would love to hear some feedback, so drop a comment in from time to time. All right, guys, talk to you soon. Be safe. Bye.